Are you ready for some rapid fire, Jess?
Let's do it.
All right, let's just jump right in. We got some good ones here, and we also have a rant that we need to listen to. So we've got some stuff. So Notre Dame women's basketball is officially the number one team in the nation for the first time in the last 6 seasons. So buy or sell them as deserving of the ranking.
I have to buy them to be deserving of the ranking, Vince, and I'm trying to be, leave bias out of this, but to me, you've got some of the best guards in the entire country, and some. Not only do they play offense really well, but they're defensively really spectacular. And then you have to start looking at, some of the teams that this Notre Dame women's team has beaten, and they've beaten, number 2 Texas, number 4 UFC, number 5 UConn, and not only are they winning, but they're winning a lot of these other games by a lot. Like they beat a Cal team who was like ranked 23rd by almost like 40 or 50 points the other night. They dismantled Pitt by 30 on the road. And their average, margin of victory actually ranks number 2 in the country, and that's at 27 points. So they're beating a lot of these teams by, large margins of victory, and they're doing it at home and on the road as well. The only 2 losses came during that funky weekend down at the Cayman Island where they lost, back-to-back games. I still blame my mom for those losses because every time she goes on the trips, that's when they decide to lose. So I was like, you just need to stay home for the rest of the time. I know it's nice down there, but you just need to stay home.
I mean, that's a great thing to tell your mom. Good luck letting your dad go to the Cayman Islands without your mom. That would it's not a discussion I think I want to be the one mediating. That's for sure. But as far as the women are concerned, I mean, if anybody hasn't turned on the TV to watch them play, they are missing out on some really, really, really good basketball. You're going to have an opportunity in about 24 minutes to tune in and watch the number 1 Notre Dame Fighting Irish against the number 11 Duke Blue Devils in South Bend. I mean, it's a sold-out crowd. It's going to be electric. My daughter's going to be there with my father-in-law cheering on the Irish. She went to the men's game last night. She's going to the women's game tonight. She comes home last night after that disaster, and she's like, Dad, I really just want to go to a women's game. I was like, well, there's one tomorrow. Contact your grandfather because he's got season tickets. So she's going again tonight. She's super excited. She loves watching the girls play or the women play. They are just so fundamentally sound and yet so exciting to watch. I mean, it's not just, pass layup, that kind of a thing. They're behind the back passes, no look passes. They're deadly from beyond the arc. They're coming into their own underneath the basket with their bigs because that's always what they were kind of missing was just, legitimate play from the bigs. And they're getting it now. You know what I mean? I mean, they are one of the deepest teams now in college basketball, and they're kind of just scratching the surface as to learning how to play with each other. So I'm telling you, if you haven't watched this team play yet, tune in tonight at 6:00. I mean, you can wait until we're done. I mean, that would be cool too. But we would understand if you want to throw that one on in the background. Let's see what channel that one's on. It is on ESPN. So if you get ESPN, go ahead and tune in or at 6:00. Michael Parks with the quote of the night: Notre Dame women's basketball is better than watching the NBA. And it's not close. I know you might disagree with that, Jesse, but I can't watch the NBA. Women's basketball, Notre Dame style is so much better.
Yeah, Notre Dame, I wouldn't. It's hard to say better, but they are both very comparable.
It's different.
Very
it's
comparable.
More entertaining to me.
They're good in their different ways. Like I would say that Notre Dame women's is probably better than half of the NBA, but the top percent of the NBA is good. This is the basketball that's most enjoyable for me. But regardless, the women's team is fantastic. It's so fun to watch them. I mean, we went there on a random Thursday night in Pitt.
Right.
That arena was a lot of fun. But just watching the team and just how they interact together, I think that they're while they might be a little undersized in terms of true bigs, I think that Leah Tu King is who really bridges that gap for them. She plays tough. She grabs a lot of rebounds. She plays the dirty minutes on defense, and she averages pretty close to a double per game. So, I don't think that there's a better defensive team in the country, to be honest with you, in terms of how their guards get on you and create a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with how deadly they are shooting. And really, it's like anyone on that team can give it to you at any point. And like that's the hard part, because if you double someone, someone's going to be open, essentially, right? And you don't want to play them man to man. So good luck.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So I got a question about being the number one team at Notre Dame. I wanted to throw your way. So Notre Dame still lights up the old school number one sign atop Grace Hall on campus anytime there's a team that achieves number one status. So in your opinion, Jesse, this tradition is blank.
It's one of my favorite things about Notre Dame, to be honest with you. And a long, long time ago, I used to date this girl that went to Notre Dame. And at the time, their Notre Dame was number one in a couple sports, I believe, and football was one of them. It was always fun being on campus around nighttime, and no matter where you were at, seeing that number one kind of lit up from anywhere on campus, right? And it's just a cool feeling and obviously it varies per sport, but when you're up there in football or basketball or you name it, kind of top end sports, it's cool because it's like even though you don't actually go there and you're not a part of the team, you still in a way kind of feel like South Bend is on top of the world to a degree, right? And so seeing that number one, to me, it's more of a nighttime thing because like you don't really see it during the day, right? Like unless you know where it's at. But it's just really cool to be able to look up and be like, yeah, Notre Dame is the number one team in the country right now.
Look, one of the things I love about college athletics is the tradition, and one of the reasons I'm a Notre Dame fan is because of the tradition, right? And there is no cooler tradition, in my opinion, than you lighten up the number one at the top of Grace Hall. I mean, it's one of the tallest buildings on campus, I believe, to this point. It used to be a dorm, now it's an office building, basically. But it's the high rise, right? And you can see it, like you said, from all over campus. Once you get anywhere near campus, you can see that thing lit up at night. It's awesome. It's old school. It's probably still got, there's no LED bulbs involved. Like it is an old school sign. I don't know if they've updated it or not. But lighting that thing up just means there's excellence happening on campus, and there's no better way to describe what's going on with the women's basketball team than excellence. And it's one of the things I look forward to. Like I'll purposely drive kind of towards that end of town to check it out and make sure, to see it. Because anytime any one of the 27 sports is number one in the country, like that means something. And it definitely means something to have that thing lit up for the women's team. So big moment for the women getting that number one ranking. And they get to test it out on the day of, which I think is actually really cool. They're taking that thing out and seeing what they can do with it against the number 11 team in the country in the Duke Blue Devils tonight at 6:00. So that should be a lot of fun. So the Notre Dame men's basketball team lost yet another ACC game at home last night by 15 to Louisville. This is their fourth loss in the last 5 games, drops the Irish to 5-9, which is 13th in the league, and 11-14 overall. So after the game, he was asked about the last 5 games, and this was his response. So I'm going to play it, and then, Jesse, I want you to just react however you see fit.
I've been saving my listening for this. I've heard about it. I haven't actually watched it yet. I wanted it to be fresh.
Those of you in the chat that have not heard it, here it is, Micah Shrewsberry following the loss last night.
We're going to keep fighting. That's it. As a group, as a team, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep trying to get back to the drawing board. We'll keep trying to guard people. We'll keep trying to score people. And we're playing good people, too. Right? But I know these guys aren't going to quit. No, they're not going to quit. Right? And I understand that, I don't understand that a lot of people have quit on us. And well deserved. If you hate me, absolutely, man. Great. If you think I suck, if you think I can't coach, I'm with you, man. Good. Good for you, because you're allowed to have opinions. You think I should be fired? Good for you. You're allowed to have opinions, right? A lot of people have given up on this team. They've given up on me. I'm going to give a damn. I believe in myself, and I believe in these guys, okay? So, like, don't give up on these guys. Don't give up on these kids. You don't want to show up because of me. Don't show up because of me. Because you think I suck. Cool. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. I know people believe in me, right? I know people at Notre Dame believe in me. But don't give up on these kids, man. What have they done for people to give up on them? I know if you're not with us because we're losing, you don't want to come watch us, fine. Fine. But do it because of me then. But not these kids, man. They don't deserve that. They don't deserve that. Like, ain't nobody else getting home at 5 a.m. from Boston College and going to class the next day and coming to practice and working out and preparing to play Louisville. Nobody else is doing that. Don't give up on these kids, man. I don't care about anybody's opinion. I know who I am. I know I can coach basketball, and I know I'm turning this program around. So you gave up on me already? I'm going to see you back here. I don't give a damn. Don't give up on these kids, because we're going to get this thing rolling. I sat there and watched more Louisville fans in here than Notre Dame people, and that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for me, because I'm the head coach here. And yes, I got us in this predicament. But don't come back when we're losing or when we're winning, because we're turning this around, man. You better believe that. Everybody that gave up on me, believe it. Write this date down and believe it. Because we're going to get this thing rolling. I don't care if you gave up on me or not.
All right, the emphatic exit there by Micah Shrewsberry. I believe he slammed a chair down and walked out. So got a little escalated.
The mic.
Yeah, he did. He was not happy, apparently, and a pretty innocuous question, actually. You know, kind of what changed in the last 5 games. I mean, that's a legitimate question, and I think there was a little bit of pent up aggression. But what are your thoughts on Micah Shrewsberry's little comment there after that game?
Yeah, definitely a lot of, pent up aggression, and it feels like kind of the boiling point. And, I had a boiling point in a recreational basketball game. Micah Shrewsberry
It's always about you.
Is the Notre Dame basketball coach, and this is a 2-year boiling point, right? Like, obviously, Notre Dame is probably, I'm not even going to say probably, they are behind schedule compared to where I think Shrewsberry and a lot of the fans thought the men's basketball team would be at this point. I have no problem with his reaction. I thought it was a bit rambly at the end of the day. Like, he kind of kept saying the same thing over and over again. I think he kind of made his point. I respect him, saying this is on me, not to criticize the players. The players are doing their part. This is about, Micah Shrewsberry. And I do enjoy him putting his foot in the ground, marking the line in the sand and saying, put this date down. I want you, or I invite you to remember this day, because I am going to turn it around. And I also think it shows a great deal of confidence that Micah Shrewsberry has at the end of the day to be able to, defiantly say this is on him, to write this date down, and he is going to, turn it around. And so, was it a bit rambly? Was it kind of corny at some points because, it felt a little bit forced, including his exit? Sure. But I think he was trying to make a point, and I enjoy it. I think it's better than just rolling over and dying or coming up with excuses or, whatever it might be. I'm in the boat of, I want someone to own it, and I want them to defiantly own it and say it's going to change. So for me, I kind of got fired up at the end of the day, and I want to see them turn around. And I think that they're going to be honest with you.
I think they're underachieving as a program this year. I think that's a fair statement to make. I know that he's got a really good recruiting class coming in, and so he can see, the forest for the trees, right? He sees that there's going to be, better play in the future. But, he's not going to say that, because what does that say about the guys he's got currently on the roster? You know what I mean? And so it was slightly reminiscent of the, Mike Gundy, I'm a man speech,
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s or I'm in my 40s. Talk about me. I'm a man, It was a little bit of that. I think he's super frustrated right now, as I completely understand, because whatever the case may be, either he needs to coach better, players need to play better, all of the above, because they're losing too many games, right? This team was supposed to be, a borderline bubble team this year, and that's not the case, right?
Right.
And
They're
they're not even close
underachieving.
to that. They're the 13th ranked team in the ACC. Now, the ACC is arguably one of the best conferences in the country. Okay. But you can't be the 13th ranked team in that conference. You know what I mean? And you can't lose games at home that you should be winning. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain benchmarks that you have to hit, and they're not hitting them. Now, with all that said, I'm not giving up on Micah Shrewsberry right now. This is year 2. Like,
Right.
I'm, there's so many people, he should be fired. He's not the guy, all this other stuff. He was left a pretty bare cupboard when he came in. And so he did his best to bring in Penn State recruits and, bring in transfer portal guys and do his best on a short calendar to bring in some freshmen, for this season. His real first class is going to be the guys is the guys that show up for next year. You know what I mean? Like that. So last time I checked, he's got a really good class coming in for next year. And if he can get, his kid to be a little bit more consistent from 3, if he can get Marcus Burton to stick around and not chase a bag, someplace else, because the vultures will come, right? If he can keep this unit together, bring in these other guys, coach them up, they're going to be just fine. And there is going to be a time where you and I can look back at February 16th when he had this outburst and be like, hey, man, they got better from that point forward. You know what I mean? I think that's possible. I'm not anywhere near ready to say that Micah Shrewsberry isn't the guy. Nowhere near it. I think that he just needs a little bit more time. Yes, they're underperforming this year. Nobody's going to disagree with that. And he's frustrated, man. Like, I get it. As a coach, you try to do all these different things to get your guys up for games, and they're just not competing at the level that you need them to compete at from start to finish, right? And that stretch where they didn't have Marcus Burton, I mean, that put doubt in everybody's eyes, right? I mean, watching this team play without Marcus Burton was a tragedy. I mean, watching that, it was tragic basketball to watch. And then they get him back, and he slowly kind of eases his way back in. And he's putting up the numbers. I think he's scored 20 plus in 9 out of the last 10 games. Like, it's not Marcus Burton, right? So other guys need to step up and help him out, and they need to figure out a good rotation, because I don't think they figured that out yet either, because it just depends on who's hot, who's not. Like, they have not figured out a good rotation. So there's a lot that they need to figure out. End of the day, Micah Shrewsberry needs more time. If we're having this exact same conversation a year from now, then we start having a conversation of maybe they don't have the right guy. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you were saying, the first year was a completely different roster between, getting some guys to come with him / grabbing guys out of the transfer portal. This season, you kind of maybe have, a recruit or two, but it's really hard to transition into that new foundation, like you were talking about, in a 1 to 2 year span. So I think year 3 and 4 are more critical. I think obviously next year you have to show some greater signs of improvement. But it's just too early to turn on Micah Shrewsberry. Also considering, this great recruiting class that he has coming in. I think that's also, a big factor in this thing. If they continue to not perform well and the recruiting is high and the performance still isn't there, then I think that's when you have a serious coaching problem, because the coach isn't able to translate, recruiting and that stuff or that sort of stuff into on-court performance. So, it's could you have hoped that he maybe handled himself a little bit better? Was it maybe a little bit unprofessional? Sure. Yeah. But I mean, he's a head coach. He's fired up. He's frustrated. You can't ever tell me that you as a person, when you're hot in a moment, don't have a reaction like that at some point, right? Like, maybe the dog has peed on the ground. You're like, man, that's the 5th time he's done that this week. I'm going to yell at that dog so loud and be so mean. It happens sometimes, right? And
it builds up.
I am glad to see that emotion from him. If I hadn't, it's like, we would be questioning, does Shrewsberry even care enough to a degree? At least that's how I look at it, right? Yeah. So I have no problem with it. I'm going to be a little bit more patient with Shrewsberry. And I think the next year definitely is going to be, a big indicator of where this thing is really headed. If it continues downhill, it might be, that time to cut the cord.
Sure. I mean, and the upcoming schedule doesn't get any easier. I would say they've got SMU, which is towards the top of the rankings. Wake Forest is up at the top of the ranking. I mean, they just need to get through February, obviously, and then they have 3 games in March. And basically, at this point, you're just trying to make the ACC tournament, let alone making any noise in the ACC tournament. So, he just needs to hang on, because it does, like, when you lose and you lose and you lose and then having to go talk to reporters, it's tough. It wears on you. And whatever it was struck a nerve, man. And he just kind of went off. And I don't blame him. Would have liked a little bit more of a concise answer. You can be ticked off. That's cool. But let's get to the mic drop moment a little quicker next time, Micah. So just work on your rant a little bit, buddy. And we'll get to where
delivery.
You need to be.
Yeah.
That's
work
right.
on that delivery a little
That's
bit.
right. That's right. All right. We're going to talk a little hockey here, because I know there's at least one hockey fan in the chat. Now, he's going to get all excited after this question. But the NHL is kind of in the midst of their All-Star break right now, and they're having what they call the Four Nations faceoff. It's the United States, Canada, Finland, and Sweden. And as of this afternoon, it has now been determined, after their round-robin kind of games, or 6 round-robin games, that the United States and Canada are going to square off again for the championship of the Four Nations face-off. So, Jesse, do you buy or sell the format of the NHL?
Yeah, I think what the NHL has done here was a tremendous success, because it seems like today all the discussions are around, all these professional all-star games, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, football, and football is obviously called the Pro Bowl, not the All-Star game, but same difference. Right. How do we get more fans interested? How do we get engagement? How do we make it competitive at the end of the day? And so, the NBA tried a new format last night. I appreciate their trial, but it was a big thumbs down for me at the end of the day.
What did they do?
They broke off into 4 teams as well. And the games were a race to 40, and then the 2 winners in the semifinals faced off in a championship match. So,
gotcha.
They tried changing their format to a degree. I love what the NHL did, because not only do you make it competitive, but you also give it an Olympic type feel to it. And there's nothing more that a country loves than getting in on that nation spirit at the end of the day. Like, it felt like Olympic hockey at the end of the day, and it was pretty tremendous. And so I think that this idea of splitting up, between 4 nations, basically the US, Canada, Sweden, and Finland, you could do that easily in a sport like baseball. I think you could probably get away with it in the NBA. If not, you might be closer in a couple years.
You could do like Europe. I mean, there's different ways that you could chunk it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You could find ways to, I think, split that pie up. Yeah. And it also brings in the international fans, right? Like, you probably got people from Canada watching, Finland watching, Sweden watching, and that's what you could do with the NBA as well, is, kind of get people over from Europe to be watching this. Obviously, they just had the games over in Paris, so I know there's a lot of fans over there. And so this transition of, kind of breaking up into subgroups, representing kind of your country and nation, and making them competitive games is really all that the fans want. I mean, in that hockey game between USA and Canada, there were 3 fights that broke out in a span of the first 1 minute of the match, So it's like, who doesn't love 2 teams literally fighting each other on behalf of their country and playing, some of the best hockey in the world, because it's all-stars. So yeah. I'm all for it. And I would love if other professional sports organizations took notes and found a way to kind of, mold their own all-star game into it.
Are you going to tune in Thursday at 8 p.m. for USA versus Canada?
Oh, 100%. I watched the one this past weekend. I have a ton of friends that I played baseball with in college who played. They're from Canada. They obviously played a ton of hockey growing up, because that's what every Canadian does.
This is true.
And so there's a nice group chat of us. Like, I don't even follow hockey that much, but I know enough. And when this sort of stuff comes in, you're going to gain the attention of me, the casual fan. And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Can you bring in casual fans to watch these all-star weeks or weekends and make it interesting? So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching.
Okay. That's all I needed to know. If Jesse Stiers is tuning in, then the rest of America is clearly going to be tuning in as well. That's all I needed to know. And it kind of parlays into this next question, Jesse, our final question of the night. Believe it or not, the Olympic trials for the 2026 Winter Games in Milan, Italy begin this week with mixed doubles curling. So, number one, are you a fan of the Olympics? And number two, why is yes the only answer?
Yes is the only answer, Vince, because anytime you slap your country on it,
yes,
just like I was saying, it doesn't matter what it is. You naturally want to root for your country, and it's when it's your nation's top versus other nations' top, you want to win gold. And so I don't care if it's curling, I don't care if it's bobsled, I don't care if it's downhill skiing, I don't care cross country skiing, whatever you want. I will turn it on and I will sit there and I will watch it and I will cheer for our country to win gold. And so I don't know. Since being a kid, I honestly look forward to the Olympics more so than other sports, just because of, it's a 4-year interval. You don't get it every so often, but it just means that much more, in my opinion, because you are only doing it for 4 years. You get to say that we are the best at this until the next 4-year interval. So I'm all for it. I love the Olympics. It's literally summer, winter Olympics is my favorite time of the year. And I get the little app on my phone. I'm tracking gold medal counts. I'm staying up late to watch random events at like 2 a.m. I'm that guy. But I own it.
Look, I love the Olympics. When they decided to split the summer and the winter games, so that would be basically you'd have un-Olympics every 2 years, essentially.
Yes.
That was the best move they could have made. Because while the 1 year of having both summer and winter in the same year were unbelievable, it was just a year straight of Olympics, I love the fact that I don't have to wait 4 years to get that again. So it's every 2 years. And I don't care what the sport is, man. I will watch with intent and I will learn whatever sport it is. The nuances of it. It is also hilarious to me how excited people get about curling, for example. During the Olympic year, curling it's huge. There's a curling venue around here somewhere that the registrations go through the roof when the Olympics are on. And I just love watching whatever, like you said, downhill skiing. I get into the figure skating. It doesn't matter. Let's go. Where are the Americans? Got to win gold. All of these.
And
different
I get
things.
upset when we don't.
Yes, I do get upset when we don't. I know all the people involved. I am on board with everybody, and then I forget who they are 6 months later. But I just remember that they were from the United States and they won gold, or they came close, or whatever the case may be. But I absolutely love the Olympics, and the fact that they're doing Olympic trials a year beforehand is wild to me. That is wild. It doesn't even matter what the sport is. It's mixed doubles curling, so male, female curling. They're figuring out who's going to be on the Olympic team a year in advance. That's
a lot can
craziness.
Change in a year,
right? I'm here for it though. If that's televised, I'm watching. I will watch the Olympic trials for mixed doubles curling if it is televised. So, speaking of televised, Jesse, it is just past the witching hour of 6 o'clock. So that means Notre Dame, #1 team in the country, women's basketball, just tipped off against Duke, the #11 team in the country, in South Bend. So we're going to get out of here and allow everybody to go watch that game, have some fun. That's what we do, man. It is what we do. I want to watch it too. So it is being selfish. But I did whip out my national championship sweatshirt for today. So feeling good about the Irish chances tonight. I finally watched the final episode of the documentary on Peacock. Have you watched that?
No. Don't ruin it yet.
Your dad made an appearance. Just
That's
saying.
what I heard.
So it was good. I just watched it today on the way home from Hillsdale. Dylan and I watched it together. So it's definitely worth your time. Unfortunately, they did lose again in the national championship game. I was hoping that pass was going to be dropped on 3rd and 11, but it was definitely not dropped.
Wasn't it?
No, it was a 57-yard pass completion or whatever it was. So, so anyway, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us tonight on IB Nation Sports Talk. I believe Jesse and Sean will be back tomorrow. So make sure you tune in at 5:00. And I know the boys will be back for the big show tomorrow afternoon as well. So, guys, make sure you check it out. And we'll talk to you next time on IB Nation Sports Talk. Have a wonderful night. And, of course, go Irish.
Go Irish.
Deuces.